My family taught me that blood isn't thicker than water. It's thinner than a check for $100,000. They gave that check to my brother. And since I was the family disappointment, no one noticed when I started planning my revenge. The first weapon I bought for the war against my family wasn't a gun. It was a company. My father, Henry, is a man who loves business, so I knew this would be the perfect way to get back at him. I sat in my small Boston apartment and paid $300 to start a shell company online. The money was for rent, but spending it felt better than anything I had bought in years. The confirmation screen lit up my face. The company was real. It didn't have any money or a purpose yet, but it was a start. It was a clean, empty container that I planned to fill with my anger. 2 hours earlier, my mother, Karen, had called. Her voice was sweet as sugar, but her words were poison. She had called to give me news, but it was really a message to remind me of my place in the family. After the call, the anger and sadness I usually felt were gone. In their place was a cold, clear feeling. I looked around my apartment at the paintings I had worked so hard on. They suddenly seemed silly. My freelance design work felt like a waste of time. I had spent my whole life trying to get them to see my art as something valuable. I was done trying. They saw the world in terms of money and business. My father never understood my art, but I was about to prove that I understood his world. He taught me the language of business by always putting it first. He just never thought I'd use that language against him. My new company was the first step. It was the first move in a game they didn't even know we were playing. They were about to learn just how creative their disappointing daughter could be. My revenge wouldn't be loud or messy. It would be quiet, smart, and it would tear their perfect world down from the inside out. My name is Olivia Davis. I'm a graphic designer living in a tiny apartment in Boston's North End. The place always smells like a mix of garlic from the restaurant downstairs and paint from my art supplies. My life feels like a series of near misses. I almost got a big scholarship for art school. I almost got a great job at an advertising agency. I almost made my parents understand that being an artist was a real job. Now, I design logos for clients who don't have much money and pay me late. I survive on cheap coffee and the hope that someday I'll get to do work I'm actually proud of. My daily routine is simple. I wake up, drink coffee, and work for 12 hours straight. My world is made of colors and shapes on a computer screen. It's the one part of my life where I have total control. But outside of my apartment, I'm the family disappointment. My family thinks my job is a cute hobby, not a career. My older brother, Tyler, is the successful one. He went to the best schools and works in finance, just like our dad, Henry, wanted. Our parents, Karen and Henry, treat him like a king. They see me as the weird, artistic one who just needs to grow up and get a normal job. They don't know that being ignored for so long has made me strong. When people underestimate you, they don't pay attention to what you're doing. They don't see you getting smarter or making plans. For years, I just wanted them to be proud of me. I wanted them to see my success. Now I have a different goal. I'm not waiting for their approval anymore. I'm going to build something for myself, and I'm going to make sure they see it. They think they know me, but they have no idea who I've become. The Davis family is all about appearances. In my parents' huge house in the suburbs, there's a big family portrait in the entrance. It shows my father, Henry, looking like a king. My mother, Karen, is next to him, with a perfect fake smile. My brother, Tyler, is right in the middle. He looks just like a younger version of our dad, full of confidence. Then there's me, standing off to the side, looking awkward. The picture tells the whole story. They are the perfect family, and I'm just an extra. Our family didn't run on love. It ran on success. Tyler was a star. He was good at sports, got great grades, and went to a fancy business school. Every time he succeeded, my parents gave him more. A new car, a trip to Europe, and they paid for his entire MBA. My successes were different. When I won first place in an art competition, my mom just said, "That's nice, dear." When I got into a top art school, they gave me a lecture about how it was a waste of money. The tension was always there, especially at our weekly Sunday dinners. The entire conversation was always about Tyler's latest achievement at his job. When I tried to talk about a design project I was excited about, they would just nod and change the subject. My dad would ask, "Are you still doing your little drawings, Olivia?" Without even looking at me. It wasn't that they were mean. It was worse. They just didn't care. They were so focused on Tyler, their perfect son, that I became invisible. It felt like they were building a kingdom with Tyler as the heir, and I was just a ghost haunting the castle halls. They didn't build a family. They built a company with a star employee, and an intern they kept forgetting they had. And that intern was getting tired of being ignored. The call came on a Tuesday. My mother's voice was sweet, but the words were sharp. "Darling, we have the most wonderful news," she said. I was looking at a past due rent notice, so her cheerful tone felt like a slap in the face. Tyler is buying a house. A beautiful place in a fancy neighborhood. He's finally settling down. I knew what was coming next. I had been waiting for this moment my whole life. I just said, "That's great for him." "We decided to help him with the down payment, of course," she went on. The "of course" said everything. It was obvious they would help him. She paused, waiting for me to say how happy I was for him. I said nothing. I could hear her sigh on the other end of the line. "It's $100,000, she finally said. The number hung in the air. $100,000. It felt like all the air had been sucked out of my small apartment. But the money wasn't the worst part. The betrayal was the memory it brought back. I remembered being 18, showing my father my acceptance letter to my dream art school. He told me it was not a smart investment. They promised they would help me later if I proved myself. I did. But when I came back to them, the money was gone. It had been rerouted to pay for Tyler's expensive business degree. They hadn't just given my brother money. They had taken my dream and handed it to him. My mother's last words on the call were the final twist of the knife. "We knew you would understand, Olivia. You've always been so independent." She was right. I was independent because they had forced me to be. And that independence was about to become their biggest problem. For 2 days, I poured all my anger into my work. I finished a project for a client in record time. The rage was like a powerful fuel. On the 3rd day, my mother called again, her voice bright and completely unaware of the damage she had caused. "We're having a dinner to celebrate Tyler's new house this Sunday," she said. "You'll come, won't you?" The request was unbelievable. She wanted me to sit there and smile, to celebrate the very thing that had broken the last piece of my heart. She wanted me to applaud their choice to erase me from the family ledger. "I have plans," I told her. My voice was surprisingly calm. There was a short silence. "Oh, well, that's too bad. We'll miss you," she said. The words were empty. We both knew they wouldn't miss me. My empty chair would just make their perfect picture of a happy family complete. After the call, I stood in front of a large blank canvas. I wasn't going to cry or send them an angry text. That's what the old Olivia would have done. The new Olivia was going to build. My entire life, they had judged me based on money. They saw my art as a worthless hobby. Fine. It was time to speak their language. My revenge wasn't going to be an emotional fight. It was going to be a business transaction. They had called me a bad investment. I would prove them wrong. I opened my laptop and created a new folder. I named it Project Balance Sheet. Inside, I started writing a business plan. The goal was simple: to build a creative company so successful and profitable that it would make their worldview look foolish. I wasn't trying to win their love anymore. That ship had sailed. This was about balancing the books. And my first move, my new company, was already in place and waiting for instructions. My revenge had to be smart, not emotional. I started by doing research. For years, I had ignored my father's boring dinner conversations about business and stocks. Now, I listened to every word he said. I spent my nights learning about his world. My father, Henry Davis, worked at an old-fashioned investment firm in Boston. The firm, Ashbury and Moore, was stuck in the past. They worked with old money families who cared more about protecting their wealth than making more. Their website looked like it was from the 1990s, and they had no social media presence at all. They were a dinosaur, rich and slow, with no idea that their world was about to change. I used my design skills to study their competition. I found modern companies that were attracting the new rich people in Boston, the tech millionaires. These companies had sleek websites and amazing branding. They were selling a lifestyle, not just investment advice. While my father was talking about boring stocks, these new firms were sponsoring art events and getting featured in magazines. I also looked at the town where Tyler was buying his house. I saw the expensive homes and modern tastes. It was a market that my father's firm was completely missing out on. Their weakness was obvious. Ashbury and Moore was losing the next generation of clients. The children of their old customers were taking their money to new firms that understood them. My father thought my art was useless, but in this new world, good design and branding were everything. It was the language of new money. I saw an opportunity he couldn't. I could provide high-end artistic branding for these new, wealthy clients. I was an expert in a language my father didn't even know existed. I had found my battlefield. It was his own backyard, and he would never see me coming. I found my first partner by accident. I was in a trendy coffee shop in Boston's South End, feeling defeated after a frustrating call with a client. He wanted his logo to look more like the future, which meant nothing. As I hung up, the man behind the counter put a free cappuccino on my table. He was in his 50s, with kind eyes and a warm smile. "Having a rough day?" he asked. "You have no idea," I replied. "The client wants a logo that disrupts typography." He laughed. "I used to have meetings like that every day. That's why I quit my job and opened this place." His name was James Hall. He had been a marketing executive at a huge company for 20 years before deciding to follow his dream of making great coffee. The shop, Grindstone, was beautiful, but its branding was a little messy. It didn't tell a clear story. We started talking about his business, and I showed him my portfolio on my laptop. I only showed him the projects I was truly proud of, the artistic ones. He looked through my work in silence. "You're an artist," he said. He said it like a fact, not a criticism. "So why are you wasting your time with idiots who think the future is a design style?" "Artists need to pay rent," I said with a shrug. He nodded. "I get it, but you're better than this." He leaned forward, his expression serious. "I want to rebrand everything. My packaging, my website, all of it. I want to take this business national. I don't have a huge budget, but I pay well, and I respect real talent. I need a brand that can take on the big guys." He looked right at me. "You look like you know how to build a giant killer. Are you interested?" It felt like more than just a job. It felt like someone was finally seeing my true potential. Someone was betting on me to win. The Grindstone project became my entire world. For 3 months, I worked day and night to build James's new brand. I didn't just create a logo. I created a feeling. I chose recycled materials for the coffee bags and wrote a story about his escape from the boring corporate world. The website I designed was clean, modern, and easy to use. The colors were inspired by the New England coast, giving the brand a sense of place. The final result was a brand that felt authentic and high-end. It looked like it belonged in the most expensive stores. James was blown away. He paid me double what I asked for. "This is an investment, Olivia," he told me. "Great work is worth it." Now it was time for the next step. I used some of my own money to hire a freelance public relations expert named Michelle. She was young, smart, and knew how to get brands noticed. She loved the story behind Grindstone. Within a month, she landed a huge feature for us. It was a full-page article in Boston Common magazine, a glossy publication that every rich person in the area read. The article was about James and his amazing coffee, but Michelle had managed to get a special section included about the branding. There was even a picture of me in my studio, with a caption calling me a brand strategist. The first shot in my war was silent, but it was deadly. I bought 10 copies of the magazine and circled the part about me with a red pen. I didn't write a note. I just mailed a copy to my parents, one to Tyler's office, and one to my father's business partner. I didn't have to say a word. The message was clear, printed for their entire social circle to see. My little drawings were now making headlines. The game was on. The silence that came back from my family was the most satisfying sound in the world. The first response came 3 days later. It was a text from my brother, Tyler. "Saw the magazine article. Looks good." After a short pause, a second text arrived. "Dad's asking questions." I almost sent back a sarcastic reply, but I stopped myself. Instead, I just wrote, "Glad you liked it." Tyler texted back right away. "One of Dad's clients saw it. The client's son has a tech company and said your branding was next level." Dad was not happy. I felt a little thrill of victory. Not happy. That was exactly what I wanted. The second ripple happened a week later. I ran into my mother at an art supply store. She was talking to one of her friends from her garden club. I overheard her say, "Oh, it's just a little hobby of hers that's getting some attention. We just hope she finds a more stable job soon." But her friend wasn't convinced. "Stable? Karen, that coffee shop is the most popular place in the city. My daughter is desperate to know who designed their brand. You must be so proud." My mother's smile looked tight and fake. She quickly changed the subject. I left the store before she saw me, her friend's words ringing in my ears. You must be so proud. But my plan had a downside I didn't expect. James, the owner of Grindstone, called me. His voice sounded stressed. Olivia, we have a problem, he said. My landlord saw the article. Now he's trying to triple my rent. He says if the shop is famous, I can afford to pay more. My heart sank. The success I had created was now hurting my first real ally. This wasn't part of my plan. I wanted to prove my family wrong, not cause problems for the people who helped me. I was learning that revenge was messy. The lines between right and wrong were starting to blur, and the cost of this war was getting higher than I ever imagined. I hadn't spoken to my father in months, but I saw him one evening by accident. I was leaving a meeting downtown when he walked out of his office building. He looked tired, and his expensive suit seemed too big for him. He didn't see me. He was on his phone, and his voice was full of frustration. The old ways aren't working, Stephen, he said loudly. We're losing the younger clients. They don't care about our history. They care about image. They want things to look modern and cool. He stopped and listened for a moment, looking exhausted. No, I don't know what the answer is. But if we don't figure it out, this firm will be history in 5 years. He hung up and rubbed his eyes. For the first time, I didn't see the man who had crushed my dreams. I saw someone who was scared of being left behind. His whole life was tied to his firm, a company his own father had built. Now he was watching it slowly fall apart, not because of a bad economy, but because the world had changed and he hadn't. His dismissal of my art, my career, my entire life, suddenly made a different kind of sense. He wasn't just rejecting me. He was rejecting a future that he didn't understand, and that was making him feel old and useless. My world of branding and design was the very thing that was threatening to destroy his. This didn't make what he did okay. It didn't forgive him for stealing my inheritance or for favoring my brother. But it made things more complicated. It's easy to fight a villain. It's much harder to fight a scared man who is losing control. He was still my enemy, but for a moment, I saw the fear behind his anger. My own anger, which had felt so pure and simple, now felt a little less clean. It was a confusing feeling, and I pushed it away. I had a war to win, and I couldn't afford to feel sorry for him. The quiet war got loud on a rainy Monday. I was about to sign my biggest client ever. A young and successful real estate developer named Nathan Baker wanted me to do all the branding for his new hotel chain. The contract was worth more money than I had made in the last year. This one job would turn my small business into a real agency. Nathan loved the work I did for Grindstone and wanted the same feel for his hotels. We had already agreed on everything, and his lawyers had sent over the final contract. I was scheduled to go to his office at 3 p.m. to sign it. But at noon, I got an email from his assistant. The meeting was canceled. I was confused, so I called Nathan directly. He sounded sorry, but his voice was firm. Olivia, I'm sorry. We've decided to go in a different direction. I asked him what had changed so suddenly. He was quiet for a moment. Look, just between us. I got a call this morning from a friend of my father's, a man named Henry Davis. Hearing my father's name felt like a punch to the gut. He said he knew you, Nathan continued. He told me you had an artistic temperament and weren't reliable. My investors are old-fashioned. Hearing something like that from a guy with your dad's reputation made them nervous. I can't risk it. I'm really sorry. He hung up. I sat in my apartment, watching the rain run down the window. The unsigned contract sat on my desk, a useless stack of paper. My father had done this. He had used his name and reputation to personally sabotage my career. He had reached into my life and destroyed my biggest opportunity. The small victory I felt from the magazine article was gone, replaced by a hot, burning anger. This wasn't a game of subtle moves anymore. He had attacked my ability to make a living. He had crossed a line. My plan for a quiet, smart revenge was over. He wanted a real war? Fine. He was going to get one. Losing the hotel contract felt like a punch to the gut. It proved that no matter how successful I became, my father could ruin everything with a single phone call. My plan for revenge, which once made me feel so powerful, now seemed like a joke. How could I fight a man who could destroy my career so easily? The fight went out of me. For a week, I did nothing. I didn't answer calls from James. I ignored deadlines for my other clients. I just sat in my apartment, staring at a blank computer screen. The anger was gone, replaced by a heavy feeling of despair. What was the point of trying if he could always stop me? My apartment felt less like a home and more like a prison. My paintings and art supplies seemed to mock me. I started looking at online job postings for boring corporate design jobs. The kind of real job my parents always wanted for me. Maybe they were right all along. Maybe I should just give up, get a stable job, and accept that I would always be the family failure. The thought made me sick, but fighting back felt impossible. The weight of it all was crushing me. I felt completely alone. One night, I was looking through an old box of family photos. I was searching for proof of a time when I felt loved, a time before I became the disappointment. I didn't find it. Instead, I found my old report cards with perfect grades next to Tyler's average ones. I saw my art awards hidden behind his sports trophies. It was a box full of evidence of how little I mattered. But at the very bottom, under everything else, I found a thick, dusty envelope. It was from a law firm and was addressed to my parents. It was dated 10 years ago. My hands were shaking as I opened it. I didn't know it yet, but I was holding the key that would unlock my revenge. The despair started to lift, replaced by a cold, sharp focus. Inside the old envelope was a stack of legal papers. Most of it was confusing lawyer talk, but one letter clipped to the front was easy to understand. It was from the lawyer who handled my grandfather's will. My eyes scanned the page and then stopped cold on a single paragraph. It said that when my grandfather died, he left money for his grandchildren. A special account was to be set up for me, Olivia Catherine Davis, and my brother, Tyler Henry Davis. When each of us turned 25, we were supposed to receive $50,000 to help us start our careers. I read it again and again. $50,000. I was 28 years old now. My 25th birthday had come and gone 3 years ago. I remembered it clearly. My parents had sent me a card with a $20 bill inside. I had never gotten this money. I had never even been told that it existed. Suddenly, everything made a terrible kind of sense. The $100,000 they gave Tyler for his house. It was my $50,000 plus his $50,000. They hadn't just given him their own money. They had taken mine, hidden it from me, and given it all to him. This was so much worse than just being the unfavorite child. This wasn't just neglect. This was theft. It was a planned, deliberate crime that my own parents had committed against me. All the pieces fell into place. Their refusal to help with art school, the years of making me feel worthless, my father actively ruining my hotel contract. They didn't just fail to support me. They had stolen from me to make their favorite child even more successful. The anger I felt before was nothing compared to this. This was a white-hot rage. This was no longer about proving myself. This was about justice. The game had changed. I wasn't just trying to balance the books anymore. I was going to burn the whole corrupt system to the ground. The anger was like a fire, but I didn't let it burn me up. I used it to make myself stronger. The next morning, I was up before the sun. The legal documents were spread out on my floor like a map for a war. The sadness and despair were gone, burned away by the truth. My goal was no longer just to be successful. My goal was to make them pay for what they did. My new plan was going to be colder, smarter, and much more dangerous. It wasn't enough to build my own business. I had to use their crime against them. My first call was to James, my friend from the coffee shop. I met him before his shop opened for the day. I told him everything. The $100,000 for Tyler, my father destroying my hotel deal, and the stolen inheritance. I slid a copy of the legal document across the counter. He read it, and his face got hard. "Olivia, this is illegal," he said, his voice low and angry. "What are you going to do?" My plan was already forming in my mind. "I'm not just going to succeed to show them they were wrong," I said. "I'm going to use my art, the very thing they hate, to make them face a public punishment. But first, I need to make sure they can't touch me." James understood right away. "You need to be bigger," he said. "Your reputation needs to be so good that your father's whispers can't hurt you." He opened his laptop. "I know people. I'm on the board of a few business groups. I know tech guys, real estate developers. They all need what you do, and they don't care about your father." For the rest of the morning, we made a list of potential clients. We created a new, aggressive business plan for my one-woman company. The old plan was to build a successful business. The new plan was to build a weapon. James kept his promise. He introduced me to people who needed my skills, opening doors that had always been closed to me. But he knew I needed more than just clients. I needed a legal weapon. My lawyer is a shark, he told me one day. You need a shark. He set up a meeting. Her name was Stephanie Watson, and she was a partner at a top law firm in the city. She was smart, powerful, and confident. Just being in her office, a sleek, modern space with a view of the Boston Harbor, made me feel stronger. I told her the whole story. My voice didn't shake as I talked about the years of being ignored, the sabotaged hotel deal, and the stolen inheritance. I gave her the documents. She read them without saying a word. When she looked up, she had a slow, dangerous smile on her face. Well, she said, this is a crime so obvious, it's almost impressive. They never thought you'd find out. They underestimated you. We can use that. She told me my options. We could sue them directly, but it would be a long, messy, and public fight. I would get my money, but it would be ugly. But getting the money isn't your only goal, is it, Olivia? She asked, her eyes sharp. No, I replied. My goal is to balance the books, in a way they will never, ever forget. Stephanie leaned back in her chair, satisfied. Good. The threat of a lawsuit is a much better weapon than an actual lawsuit. We won't file anything yet. We'll gather our evidence and write a letter to your father that will give him a heart attack. We will wait until you are in the strongest possible position, and then we will strike. This won't be a court case. It will be a public takedown of his reputation. Are you ready for that? For the first time, I felt like I had a truly powerful partner on my side. I'm ready for anything, I said. Our plan had two parts. We called it Project Bellwether. The first part was to build my career. With Stephanie's legal threat ready to go, I worked harder than ever before. The introductions from James paid off. I got a contract to rebrand a new biotech company. Then I got another one for a luxury apartment building. My design style, clean, modern, and story-focused, was exactly what the newly rich people in Boston were looking for. I was no longer just a freelancer. I was the founder of Alethea Creative. I hired 2 other talented designers, and we moved into a cool office in a renovated warehouse. My agency was quickly becoming known as the best in the city. Every successful project made me stronger and safer from my father's influence. I was making myself untouchable. The second part of the plan was the legal weapon. Stephanie was a genius. She didn't just write a legal letter. She created a story of their crimes. She gathered all the evidence. The trust fund papers, my father's work emails, which she got legally, and a calculation of how much money I lost because of the sabotaged hotel deal. The final document was over 40 pages long. It was a detailed takedown of my father, Henry Davis, showing how he had failed as both a father and a trustee. The letter demanded my original $50,000 back, plus extra money for the damages he had caused. It was a bomb, ready to explode. We had to choose the perfect moment to use it. The attack couldn't be private. It had to be public. For months, I built up my reputation while Stephanie perfected our weapon. Then, the perfect opportunity arrived in the mail. It was an invitation to the Ashbury and Moore Annual Investor Gala, a fancy black tie party my father hosted at his home every year. It was the most important night of his professional life. For the first time ever, I sent back my RSVP. The answer was yes. The trap was about to be sprung. On the night of the party, I picked my outfit like a soldier picking armor. I wore a simple but powerful black dress, the complete opposite of the soft, floral dresses my mother always liked. I looked less like the family's artistic black sheep and more like a CEO. When I walked into my parents' house, a place I hadn't been in for 2 years, they were shocked. The house was filled with the richest and most powerful people in Boston. My father, Henry, was laughing by the fireplace, completely in his element. My mother, Karen, was moving through the crowd, smiling and greeting guests. Their smiles faltered for a second when they saw me, but they quickly recovered. "Olivia, you came," my mother said, kissing the air next to my cheek. "You look so serious." "Glad you could make it," my father added with a short nod, before turning back to a client. They thought I was surrendering. They thought my showing up meant I was ready to come back into the family on their terms. All night, they introduced me to their friends with a hint of surprise. "This is our daughter, Olivia. She runs her own little design company." I was polite and calm, watching everything. I saw my father charming his clients. I saw my brother, Tyler, enjoying the attention. At exactly 9 p.m., my lawyer, Stephanie Watson, arrived. She was not on the guest list. She walked in, gave her card to the staff at the door, and stood near the entrance. She was a silent, powerful presence in the room. She didn't look at me. She didn't have to. Her arrival was the signal. The trap was now set. I walked over to my father, who was laughing with a city politician. I waited for a pause in their conversation. "Dad," I said, my voice perfectly steady. "When you have a free moment, there is a legal matter I need to discuss with you." His smile vanished. He looked from my face to the powerful woman standing at his front door. The color drained from his face. The trap was closing. My father led me to his study. It was the same room where, years ago, he had told me my art dreams were a bad idea. The confident man from the party was gone. Now he just looked angry and scared. "What is this, Olivia?" he asked, his voice low. "Why did you bring that woman to my house? Are you trying to embarrass me?" "Embarrassment is the least of your problems if you don't listen to me right now," I said calmly. I put a single piece of paper on his big wooden desk. It was the copy of the paper from my grandfather's trust. He stared at it, and his face turned red. "Where did you get this?" he asked, his voice shaking. "I found it in an old box." "It's funny what you find when you're cleaning out your past," I told him. $50,000, Dad, that I was supposed to get on my 25th birthday. Money that I never got. Money that, strangely, adds up perfectly with Tyler's share to make a $100,000 down payment on a house. Just then, my mother and Tyler walked into the room. They could feel the tension. "Henry, what's going on?" my mother asked, her eyes wide with worry. Tyler looked confused. "Dad gave me the money for the house," he said simply. "No, Tyler," I said, looking directly at my brother. "Dad gave you our money. Half of that was my inheritance. Our parents stole it from me and gave it to you." Tyler's face went pale as he finally understood. My mother started to say something, but the guilty look on my father's face stopped her. He knew he was caught. "What do you want, Olivia?" my father asked, his voice rough. "Do you want the money?" "Don't be silly," I said with a cold smile. "I don't need your money anymore. I want you to fix this. I want everyone to know the truth. I want the books to be balanced, for everyone to see. The fight wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the truth, and for the first time in my life, I was the one in control of it. Here is what's going to happen," I said. The study was completely silent. I pushed another folder across the desk toward my father. Inside was the long letter my lawyer, Stephanie, had prepared. It detailed all their crimes. "You're going to read that," I instructed. "You're going to see all the proof we have against you. You will see how you broke the law as the trustee of my grandfather's money. You will also see the section about the hotel deal you ruined for me. You will see that we are asking for the $50,000 you stole, plus another $250,000 for all the damage you caused." My father's hands trembled as he held the papers. My mother made a small, scared noise. "Or," I said, my voice steady, "you can choose option 2. We won't sue you. There won't be a big public court case that will ruin your company's name and your reputation in this town. Instead, my company is going to start a new charity. It will be called the Davis Grant for Emerging Artists. It will give money to young artists in New England who don't have family support. Your family trust will make one large donation to fund this grant." I paused to let them understand. "That donation will be for $250,000. We will announce it with a press release from both my company and yours. The press release will praise your family for its sudden desire to support the arts. You will pay for the exact kind of future for others that you tried to take away from me." My father looked at me. His eyes were full of hate, but also a little bit of respect. He was a businessman, and he knew when he was beaten. He was trapped. His precious reputation was on the line. Tyler stared at the floor. My mother was crying silently. There was nothing to discuss. They had to agree. "Fine," my father finally said. The word sounded like poison. "Get your lawyer. We'll have our lawyers prepare the papers." It wasn't an apology. It was a business deal. He was buying my silence. After all these years, the books were finally brutally balanced. 6 months later, I'm standing on the balcony of my new office. It's a big, open space in a cool, renovated warehouse with a great view of Boston Harbor. The wind from the ocean feels clean and fresh. Last night, my company hosted an event to give out the first Davis Grant for emerging artists. We gave the money to a talented young sculptor from a poor neighborhood. She had been working 2 jobs just to buy her art supplies. The story was covered by all the fancy magazines that my parents read. Seeing my father's quote in the articles, where he talked about how important it is to support the next generation of artists, was especially sweet. My phone buzzes. It's a text from my brother, Tyler. "What you did was brutal," it says. A moment later, another text appears. "But he deserved it. I'm sorry, Liv." I read his words and feel a small, sad flicker. I don't write back. Some relationships are too broken to be fixed. I haven't spoken to my parents. We only communicate through our lawyers now. It's a cold and professional relationship, which is more honest than what we had before. I don't feel bitter or empty. The anger is gone. All that's left is a deep sense of peace. I look at my reflection in the glass door of the balcony. I see a woman who built her own success. I didn't use family money or connections. I used my talent, my brain, and my anger. The score is settled. The books are balanced. It's not a happy fairy tale ending. It's a colder, more realistic kind of justice. I turn away from the view and walk back into my busy office. My team is waiting. We have work to do, a new brand to build, a new story to tell. I am not my family's disappointment, and I am not their success story. I am simply and finally my own person. If you have experienced this kind of freedom before, share, subscribe, and comment.